Good evening. This is John Bailey. This is People to be Heard, the program where people who have something to say have their say. Tonight, you've got White Plains Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph Ricca, who is here to talk the new 2018-19 school budget, with the Assistant Superintendent for Business, and Vaccaro-Teich. Welcome to the program, folks.
Nice to
Appreciate you taking
Thank you very much.
time on this busy time of year. So let's get right to the action here. The school budget is 2.1% higher than last year's almost full percentage point. It's a full percentage point lower than last year's increase of 2.58%. About 0.5% cut in the rate of increase. How were you able to achieve this?
Well,
That's a first in a long time.
The first thing I'd like to say, thanks again for having us, and it's great to be here and great to have an opportunity to talk about the proposed budget. It's such an important aspect and component of the school district. So how do you come up with a number that's less, and how do you make that happen, right? And it's hard work. I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Vaccaro-Teich and the team have worked tirelessly, along with the support of the Board of Education, to really maximize all of the services that we presently have, and at the same time, in terms of increasing our capacity, taking a very conservative approach to that. So what we think, and what we'll talk about today, is we think we have a very responsible and conservative proposed budget that is going to not only support the outstanding educational experiences our kids should have, but also increase our capacity and continue to make us one of the best school districts in Westchester County.
What have you given up, do you feel?
So it's not really about giving things up. Really what we've attempted to do is look at our budget and look at where we have our resources allocated and make adjustments internally to be able to have an increased program where we need it, and then make reductions where possible. So last year we saw different percentages increase in certain areas that perhaps didn't increase as much this year, and Ann and her team were able to go in with the help of the Finance Committee and make some of those reductions, right, Ann?
Correct. In some of those areas we're in the realm of retirement benefits that in our employees' retirement system went down a bit. And also, just being able to be mindful of our contract negotiations and keep that in line with our tax levy cap. So looking for efficiencies, and the long-range planning helps to guide this process. So you remember that we were involved early in the year, back in December and January, really focusing on what the next 5 years look like. And from that information, both gathering instructional long-range plan information, technology, facility information, then that helps to shape what that profile of the future looks like, and then we're able to build our
And you're buying
budget.
Technology on the installment plan now.
We are.
Which I thought was brilliant. Why didn't anybody think of that before?
Well, so one of the things that we are endeavoring to do every year, John, is take a fresh approach. We really do follow in every aspect of the district a continuous improvement model, so we will never be satisfied. Every year we'll be looking to do better. And that's a great example of one of the things that we were able to identify this year that are going to continue to help us save money in the long run.
And in fact, the fact that you started early, this is the earliest the school district, and since I've been covering the district for 15 years, has ever started working on the budget, it seems to me.
Right.
That's right, right?
Yeah, so, for us, and this has been my sort of philosophy throughout my career as superintendent, I know Ann as well. The conversation about the budget never stops. Projecting a true 5-year plan, or attempting to project a true 5-year plan, and making sure that everything we do in every day, every dollar that is spent is done so with recognition of the budget, because it can't be a one-time-a-year conversation. It's that important. So it's continuous. So we'll start working on the 1920 budget on the 16th of May.
And we really have already, because we're starting to look for other ways to find efficiencies.
Right. And the tax rate increase is 2.9%, raising the tax rate to $644 $2,000.41 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. That's around $300 a year for the median priced home in White Plains. Are you confident this is acceptable to the public?
Well, you know, that's a really great question and something that we think a lot about, and I can tell you that the Board of Education also is extremely conscious about. So, you know, looking at the proposed budget in terms of the proposed increase, you're under $30 a month. You're right about $22, $22.50 a month. You know, I recognize that for some people, and we've talked about this, a dollar increase is a challenge. However, at the same time, you know, the commitment and the investment that we have and the responsibility that we have to put for our children, I think this community gets that and you've seen that over the course of the years. So, you know, while I certainly understand if somebody feels like that's too much, I think most folks would look at that and say, wow, this is within the tax cap.
Yes.
They're finding efficiencies, and they're still keeping it in a reasonable, responsible.
Even though the tax cap increased this year to 2%, you didn't take advantage of that.
No, we will remain within the tax cap. That's very, very important to us.
Right. What is the downside of cutting the rate of increase of the budget more? Is there an upside to cutting more? I've asked you this before, but I think it's
a debate we have often.
We do.
Yes.
We do. We have that debate often, and you know, so I've in my career have cut taxes and cut budgets. Actually, I have to tell you, it's very easy to cut budgets.
You're probably the only superintendent in the states that has.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, and in hindsight, one of the things that I learned and I recognized is that when you do that, you could potentially be dismantling your school district. And you know, our number one responsibility is to make sure that our schools are as outstanding as they possibly can be, and that's because of resources and support from the community. So we do have the debate often, and we look for ways to make reductions and reallocations.
Yes, and just to make it clear, if you decide, well, we have more money this year that we can give back to the taxpayers, and the aid next year drops, which I think it did this year.
Initially it did, and then it came back. Yep.
And then when that is added in, later on it goes to the next year.
Right.
But
you never get it back.
That's right.
You never get it back. You know, John, to your point, if you look at the tax cap, and if you look at sort of the conversation about a 2% tax cap, if it was a true 2% tax cap since the inception, the district would have benefited from about $6 million more. So, you know, those are real significant numbers, and it's important to understand that stability isn't there each and every year.
So if you don't maximize the tax cap, then you're decreasing the amount of revenue in future years that you can draw
and since our assessments are sluggish at best, you can't really. We're waiting for values. There should be a play like that, waiting for values. Right? Hasn't happened yet in White Plains, but be that as it may. Looking at your preliminary budget, you point out curriculum, instruction, and employee benefits increase $4.7 million, approximately the entire amount the budget is increased. Yeah. And that, I thought, I've never seen as clear as that. So it's the personnel.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think you hit it on the head, right? So we're very proud that the majority of the dollars spent in this school district are spent in the classroom on children. And I think that illustrates exactly what you're bringing up right now. When we look at education, it's about the resources, the curricula, and that outstanding teacher in the room with our children. We're very fortunate to have those, a lot of them, and that's what you see reflected in the proposed budget.
How did you allocate where to add teachers and spread out their responsibilities? Sure,
and that's a conversation that takes place with our teachers, with our principals and administrators, and of course with the cabinet and the Board of Education, and it all comes down to what our children need. Where is the need in the district? And then we make those personnel adjustments based on exactly that, what our children need.
Now, On the benefits, there is a rise in pension contributions. How about health costs?
So health costs are estimated to rise about 3 to 5% as a blended rate, depending on what kind of plan. But our health insurance plan, which is a consortium amongst the school districts in the lower part of Westchester, is significantly less than the New York State health insurance plan, where they are seeing an increase of almost 13% this year. So we feel fortunate that this plan is very mindful of the costs and manages it well.
Yeah, I know you are adding, oh wait, you announced in your community forum on security a number of security tightening initiatives. Is this being paid for out of this year's budget or next year's, or a combination?
Yeah, so as we all know, safety and security is a paramount issue for our children, and we are committed to continuing to increase our measures, already very strong, but continue to increase. And you're going to see a combination of measures being taken out of this year's budget and next year's budget. And moving forward, we're committed also to continuing to support our security infrastructure to make sure that it continues to remain not only strong, but also current in terms of whatever's happening in our world, right? So that's really important, because training is probably one of the most important things that we can do, and we're committed to doing that as well.
Yeah, are you going outside for training, bringing in experts, or just with the police department?
You know, I was just going to say, we have such a strong relationship with the Department of Public Safety that we're really able to take advantage of that partnership to be able to support our training. But we also have the ability to contract with other agencies that can come in and help support us as well. So we look for best practices, and we can find them right here at home, which is great.
Now, I note you're adding 2.8 full-time educators to English language learners instruction, and 2 full-time educators. I think that's the acronym FTE for science and technology. I think reducing 17 teaching assistants to less than 6.5 hours. Have the number of teaching assistants been reduced? I think there were at least 50 a few years ago, or about the same.
So during the recession, there were absolutely reductions. The actual numbers of our teaching assistants has since come back a bit to support our students. So we're certainly back. In terms of what we're proposing this year, we're not proposing a reduction of any of them. In fact, what we're doing is we're looking to bring their hours all up to be the same. So the 17 may be at 6 hours. Now we're recommending to bring everybody up to 6.5 hours. And that's also going to help to support our children during arrival and dismissal. So it's good for the district, it's good for our kids, and it's certainly good for our personnel as well. In terms of we're very excited about the science positions and the enrichment positions. That's going to be fantastic, continue to support our efforts there, both in Project Lead the Way and also moving towards the Regents class for all at Highlands, which is fantastic, and our other positions in terms of the English language learners are spread out among throughout the district where needed.
Yeah, you have a request to spend $10 million out of the capital reserve for various maintenance projects, which I think that the voters have to approve.
Sure.
And could you explain how much has been accumulated in the fund? And what will it be spent on?
So we anticipate at the end of this year we'll have about 17 million in the reserve. And in 2016 you had a conversation with Dr. Freed and Mrs. Seiler about this when they were looking to establish the capital reserve. Which is really interesting is that the time frame actually came out almost exact, right? It's 2018, and because the district took those steps in the past and was responsible, now what we're doing is we're asking the voters to be able to use that banked reserve to put these needed infrastructure projects on the map, and it doesn't cost any additional dollars. And you know what? By not having to go out for a bond, we'll probably save about $2 million in terms of
very foresighted, which would have to have been spent on debt service.
Right,
right.
exactly.
Right.
So, what do you contribute to the reserve each year?
As much as we can.
Well, it's based on the funds that will remain at the end of the year, and the board makes that decision as to what it should deposit within the reserve, within with what the voters approved. So it varies each year depending on the results of our financial status for the June.
I think this is the only school district that does this, or did
Well,
this.
there's some
There's
schools
some,
that do
yeah.
capital reserves, and it's become more prevalent since the tax levy cap that districts are looking at ways to be able to save the
It's good
principal and
planning.
interest.
It's good planning, John.
Yeah,
Well, as we all know, planning is everything.
That's right.
planning is.
And speaking of planning, the effect of the contingency budget, God forbid.
Right, God forbid,
forbid.
Indeed, because when we look at a contingent, and for folks who may not know what contingency budget is, that's if the budget fails, and then
Twice.
Twice, and then ultimately we have to go to what's called a contingency budget. That would mean we would need to make a reduction of $6 million right off the top. Now, I don't want to use alarmist words, but that is catastrophic for any school district, because when you talk about $6 million, you are cutting into program, and that is never a place that we want to be. So, that's why we put so much effort into making sure that our proposed budgets are fiscally sound, so that the community members can be confident, and there's a level of trust, and they know that the district is spending every dollar as if it was its own.
Why should the city of White Plains approve your budget, which is $218.4 million, right? Right.
Well, I think for many of the reasons that we just discussed, we're very proud of the school district, and I can tell you that the Board of Education and all of our educational community members are very proud of the work that we're doing here in White Plains. Over the course of this last year and even in previous years, we continue to see our students as standout students. We continue to see folks moving to our community because they're attracted by the vibrant community and the public schools, which is fantastic. And we are committed to putting together fiscally responsible spending plans each and every year. As long as this Board of Education and this administration are here, the public can rest assured that there will be no waste, and that everything we do will be good for our kids.
And moving the dollars around where you need them.
Correct.
That's right.
And people are cooperative across all the departments.
Yep.
And
They're
areas in this.
fantastic, and you talk about collective bargaining, you talk about negotiations, and we've benefited from having those strong, positive relationships with our bargaining units, because folks recognize that the fiscal health of the organization, the fiscal health of the school district is the ultimate in terms of importance, making sure that we can continue to provide going forward.
Yeah. Now you have teacher negotiations coming up. What are major issues that the district and a union have to reach common objectives on?
So that sort of speaks right to what I was saying, and we will have negotiations with the teachers coming up at the end of or middle of next year, really. And I would guess that the major factors will be as they were 2 years ago, related to salary and benefits. Listen, we all know, every one of us knows that in today's day and age, where property taxes are extraordinarily high, and there is a tax cap in place, that we need to make sure that we stay within a sustainable agreement. There's nobody that wants to provide any type of item that 2 years down the road can't be supported. And we're confident that we have that relationship that we'll be able to meet in the middle.
You feel that the benefits have to be paid more by the employees, or can you live with, what is the present percentage that they pay?
So up to about 15% or so,
15%.
yeah.
That they contribute.
And our position is we all need to continue to pay more into our benefits and into the premium associated with our benefits. And I think what we've seen over the last several years throughout the county and throughout the state, in fact, is that associations recognize that it's not because the district necessarily wants to, it's because you need to. And for a lot of years, there was a sort of a zero contribution to health benefits that just is not sustainable.
So, Where does the union stand on this issue?
Well,
Well, listen, we want to see what we can do to help you on this, right?
Sure, sure. I can tell you that you know, we have really good, candid conversations about you know what can happen and what can't happen, and I can tell you that our association cares about our children, cares about the welfare of the school district, and I'm confident that when it comes time to have these conversations, that we'll definitely be able to work together and find a sustainable agreement.
Well, it certainly worked out on the last
Yeah, sure.
round
No,
after some
they're very committed
acrimony
to,
over the
to working
years.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You know, you have to work together, and you know, there's a recognition from this administration, this Board of Education, that the faculty and staff members, they are critical component. They are the critical component within the school district in terms of impacting positively our children, and you know, that we make sure that we continue to hold them in esteem and respect, and they follow as well.
now, on the dual language program, how can you grow the dual language program throughout all grades with the personnel demands, i.e. more teachers who are bilingual, that requires this type of program? How many FTEs do you need to hire going forward?
So right now we're studying, as we talked about a couple of months ago, we're studying our dual language program, looking at it holistically in terms of strengths and areas for potential improvement. Church Street is the school right now where the program is expanding year to year. We were in kindergarten this year. Next year we'll be in kindergarten first. And what we've been able to do, and we hope to be able to continue to do, is again reallocate personnel within the district to be able to support the program. So there's not necessarily a number of new faculty members who would need to be hired. And in terms of expanding the program throughout the district, that's still a conversation that we would need to have. We want to see how the program is working first before we talk about expanding it throughout the entire district.
And the state is okay with the district's plan to address that what is it, Rule 154?
Part 154,
Yes.
sure. Absolutely. The district took steps needed to be able to make sure that we're meeting our obligations to our children, and the state does support that. And I have to tell you, again, it's another point of pride for the district to have such a strong dual language program to be offered to our students, both native English speakers and Spanish speakers, is fantastic.
Which was created before the state education department said, hey,
Yeah.
we're educating students that can't write and read because they're
Ahead of the curve, yeah.
Yes, it's that was, I thought, a great thing the school district attempted to do. Now, special education, that is growing, the demands on special education. Are there any thoughts to trying to establish our own special education unit?
Sure. So we're always looking for ways that, number one, that we can support our students in their home schools. That's so important to us. You know, and I think we've done a nice job. The district has done a nice job of being able to support our students in our home schools. And you know, it's about capacity building within the department. So making sure that we have the resources and making sure we have the program to support our students, and more and more,
And the training.
and the training, and more we're seeing students be able to stay in the general education setting instead of being placed out.
How many are out of district now, and how many are in?
Just over 70 this year. We project 67 would
For
be
next
for
year?
next year, out of 7,200 plus students.
That's 67% would be
No, 67 children.
students.
67 children
That's it.
Yes.
in the
Right.
special education. I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah, they would be the out of district
Out-
placement. We're about our percentage of students with special needs is probably about 13 to 14%.
Right, there's
like
about
that.
1,200 students
Yeah,
who
And
are.
is that growing? Or?
Right now, it's not. It's actually sort of leveled off now. That doesn't mean that you know, tomorrow a student with special needs won't move into the district. But what it does mean is that when we are making the assessments, when our professionals are making the assessments in terms of students who do are classified as students with special needs, that we're not over-classifying kids, that we're providing interventions in classrooms before the students are coming to the Committee on Special Education to assist them.
Now let's see. There was Have we covered all the propositions?
There's
I think
a
one
second,
more.
and it's a pretty exciting one.
Yes.
I have to tell you. And I always give Anne a great deal of credit here, and I give the board a great deal of credit because I know this is a conversation that has been going on in White Plains for some time. This year, in the second proposition that's going to be on the ballot on May 15th, right? May 15th, we are proposing transportation for our high school students with no parental fee. That has been something that the board has hoped to be able to do for quite some time. Students have asked for it, parents have asked for it. One of the first things I heard when I arrived in the district was that, hey, could you please take a look at this? And we did, and we did a transportation study. And this is what's going to get people really excited, is that we believe that we can achieve this through efficiencies, and the nominal cost that is associated with it, we believe will be covered through our state aid.
And through the efficiencies for ridership and rerouting, that we believe that the $166,000 associated with the proposition will be offset by that and be no cost to the taxpayers.
So that means our high school children can ride the school bus, no additional fee. It means that nothing changes in terms of the service that our students are presently receiving.
An actual security measure in itself.
Yeah, and sure, and fewer buses on the road during arrival and dismissal, better efficiency in terms of the routing. But what's really important is that for folks to understand that we're proposing this, and we recognize that someone say, well, okay, in order to do this, what's lost? Nothing is lost. Nothing is lost except potential waste. Right. So it's pure efficiency.
So the budget vote is?
The budget vote is on May 15th. And we strongly urge everybody in the community to participate in that process. It's so important. The polls, I believe, open at 12 o'clock, close at 9. And if anybody has any questions at all, they can reach out to us at the Education House, and our election professional, Mrs. Michelle Schoenfeld, would be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay. Well, Dr. Joseph Ricca, Superintendent of the Schools for the City of White Plains, and Anne Vaccaro-Teich, Assistant Superintendent for Business, you have been heard on the White Plains school budget.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Good night for People to be Heard.